After he was hit by a taxi in early 1975, which required him to stay at home and rest, Brian Eno became fascinated with the concepts of ambiance's music. Inspired by a broken stereo channel with an old record of harp music, and the light and sounds that came from outside his home, he fused the idea into music that he called ignorable as it is interesting. Eno's newfound discovery in music and audio production came in the form of Discreet music. Released in September 1975, an album defined by ethereality and droning bliss on its first side, and defined by variations of an infamous classical piece on its lesser praised second side. Today, we're going to take a look at it. Having started my experiences with Brian Eno and his ambient collection of music with 1978's infamous Music for Airports just a few months back, I have been craving new forms of ambient music and related subgenres. The intricate, audible beauty that Eno and his company of session musicians put together on Airports blew my mind for the entire 48 minutes that the album lasted, and I think it's one of only a few albums, now anyway, that I can say is perfect through and through. But that's for another day. Today we're here to cover his proto-ambient masterpiece, Discreet music. Now what do I mean by proto-ambient? Well, ambient music as we know it now and as it was known after Music for Airports wasn't the same in 1975. Sure, minimalist pieces and drone music existed. Lou Reed and composer Steve Vai had dabbled in it by that time, not to mention the previous influence by composers like John Cage. But the concept of continuous pieces of music that could be described as ambient was somewhat foreign. Now, let's talk about the music. Discreet music, the title piece that takes up all of side A, is one continuous 30-minute piece slowly rising into new developments and added sounds. Eno intended for this piece to be listened to at a low volume, sometimes at the point of near inaudibility, hence the discreet portion of the name. It was meant to replicate the experience that he felt bed-ridden listening to that old harp record, and I would personally say that it succeeds. I find it hard to fall asleep to most of Eno's ambient works, especially that of Music for Airports and his surprisingly louder 1985 piece, Thursday Afternoon, since the noise just seems to calm me, but only enough to keep me alert, if that makes sense. Discreet music, however, has a certain layout to it that makes it so generally calming. I've used it as background for when I'm writing, whether it's for these videos or for school, when I'm reading, or when I'm just chilling out on Discord. It provokes my mind creatively, which, yes, Music for Airports did as well when I first heard it, but that factor was quickly lost, and it became more of something to listen to when I wanted to think or relax. Discreet music, on the other hand, has become like a close friend of mine for when I need to get my mental gears turning. I find it quite ironic because discreet music is such a calm piece, almost sounding like one of those cliched songs that play during sunrise in films and cartoons. Come to think of it, that's exactly how I describe the title track. It sounds like a sunrise, like an early morning. It's beautiful in the same way the sunrise is. Throughout the entire 30 minutes, there are very few instrumental changes. Most of it is looped, I'd say, after maybe the 5th or 6th minute. But there's a reason for that. You see, when Eno worked with King Crimson mastermind Robert Fripp during the early stages of his career, he created a series of tape loops that was later dubbed Frippertronics. It's an incredibly detailed process that's described in the liner notes of the album, but in a nutshell, 2 phrases of music were played back through a digital recall system, then into an equalizer to change the timbre occasionally, and finally into an echo unit and tape machine. But it doesn't stop there. Then the first tape machine feeds the sound through to a second tape machine, which keeps sending sounds back and forth between the two for the entirety of the piece. So, that's a little insane. Despite only being on the first side, the title track is truly the most important part of discreet music, and in my opinion, might as well just be the entire album. Side 2 is almost entirely unrelated. To keep it simple, Side 2 is, as it is officially named, 3 variations on the canon in D major by Johann Pachelbel. Hope I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm probably not. I am far from being classically trained, inclined, etc., etc. I know nothing about classical music. So, to avoid making a fool of myself, I'm just going to gloss over most of this to the best of my ability. Canon in D is mostly recognized for being one of the most popular chord progressions in popular music. Spiritualized Ladies and Gentlemen We Are Floating in Space is one example that I'm fond of that uses canon in D as its backbone. However, this collective piece, performed by the Cockpit Ensemble, conducted by Gavin Bryars, are just, obviously, variations. They aren't playing the exact piece, and, in fact, most of what it is ever-changing excerpts, with changes to elements and tempo, among other things. It makes up 24 minutes out of the 54-minute album, and simply feels out of place. That's not to say it's entirely bad, because it isn't. There's no right just to shame it for no reason. But it feels almost like it was tacked onto the album to make up the second side, because there was no other material to go there. It doesn't necessarily detract from the experience, it doesn't take away from the album's merits, but it feels a tad unnecessary. With all of that being said, Discreet Music remains, in my opinion, one of Eno's most important albums, perhaps even one of his strongest. Although his production credits often outweigh the shine of his solo career, such as with David Bowie on the Berlin Trilogy, which, funnily enough, came about due to Bowie's love of discreet music, this innovative, wonderful album of blissful serenity and musical experimentation cements Brian Eno as one of the most eclectic and important musical masterminds of the modern age. And to think this album is almost 44 years old. With that, I give Brian Eno's Discreet Music an 8 out of 10. Thank you all so much for watching this video. As always, it's greatly appreciated. I'm sorry if this video seems a little short, I guess uninformed. I'm going into something new for once. It's not necessarily my normal indie rock sort of deal, so it felt a little different for me to review something that was not as, I guess, fleshed out as other albums are. But this album came to me just randomly, decided that I'd listen to it, and it proved to be a pretty amazing experience, and I figured it deserves a review, so I decided to write this. I do have some bigger videos coming out soon. I got some reviews in the oven cooking right now, but they won't be out before the new year. This is going to be out just before. I'm recording this on the 30th. If this gets out before the 1st of January, it'll be a surprise. But with that being said, I do wish everybody a happy new year. Here's to an awesome 2019. 2018 was freaking amazing as a year, at least for me. Hopefully it was also an amazing year for you guys. But with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Again, it's greatly appreciated. If you would like to, just, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. It's up to you. No pressure. If you have any recommendations for me, I'm willing to take them. I'm not saying that they're going to come to fruition, but I will consider them. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day and keep being awesome. With that being said, I'll see y'all later. Take care.